Hey, welcome to Tasting Room Conversations. We're so excited for you to join us. I'm excited to be joined here by Ben Sprague, City Councilor in Bangor, among other things. It was one of those first conversations like, what do we want to introduce you as? Because it could be a lot of things. You're a guy around town involved in a lot. So thank you for taking the time.
It's my pleasure. Happy to do it. We should do this every Friday afternoon here.
I think so too, right?
Cheers to you.
Cheers.
Yeah.
It's pretty good.
Thanks for having me over. I'm not going to say that I am a little bit on the wrong side of the river right now, but you have a beautiful space here.
Thank you.
I'm happy for you.
I mean, I think you're a little bit on the right side of the river at this point, although my heart is definitely on both sides for a lot of reasons.
Sure.
We've had this conversation with a lot of people that when you're from this area, when you're not in this area, you're from Bangor.
Yeah.
You know,
Sure.
And I think that's it's a testament to the work Bangor's been doing and all that sort of stuff. So you've been back in Bangor since 2011. Bangor grad, went away for a time, back in Bangor since 2011. We'll get to what took you away and what brought you back in some time, but tell me about when you came back and what you saw, what you hoped, things that made you excited at that point, things that you saw as challenges at that point, and if you thought we'd be where we are right now.
Sure. Well, all kinds of great questions in there. When I was in Massachusetts, I would follow what was going on here pretty closely.
Yeah.
Always look at the BDN online and just follow whatever news I could. And there were more and more things happening.
Yeah.
I remember when Waterfront Concerts started, and I think it was 2010, and thinking, oh, that's really cool that there are real renowned artists coming to this area. I don't go to many concerts, but I like to know that they're there.
Yeah.
And I like to know that there's that vibrancy and activity going on. It was the same thing with like Kabang back in the day, and even just what was going on in downtown Bangor.
Yeah.
I remember when Patty Murphy's opened, it was probably 07, 08 in that range. And I remember thinking, that's great, but it's really depressing to think about going into downtown Bangor to have a beer.
Yeah.
And look how far we've come. That's 10 or 12 years, and now there's a dozen great options downtown.
And that's that story that I tell often as well. Growing up on the brewer side of the river, growing up in Orrington, and man, I saw, especially growing up in a family-owned restaurant, I saw the 90s as this time where Bangor thought it was really cool to be put on the map because new chain restaurants were coming in.
Yeah.
And I saw what that did to our downtown. I saw what it did to a lot of things. At a time where there was a struggle to keep the infrastructure up and all those sorts of things, we were seeing a shift away from local. And we've seen such a shift back towards local and this idea of doing things ourselves. And I think there are a lot of catalysts. You mentioned Kabang. I often mention the folk festival. I think with those two things not happening, where would we be? You know, it's kind of cool. Waterfront Concerts has deservedly seen a lot of accolades. But for me to see that waterfront come to life that first time with the American Folk, was it the National Folk Festival when it first came? That was like, whoa.
Yeah, and that was a very deliberate effort to get the folk festival here back in the day, because you're right, the National Folk Festival would travel around from community to community and spend 2 or 3 years in each one and then move on. Yeah. So the council and staff and community groups at the time specifically recruited the folk festival to come here. And then when the 2 or 3 year period was up, they retained a version of that by basically creating the American Folk Festival.
Yeah.
And you're right, it showed people what could be done through the arts, through creative economy, through events, that people would actually come to Bangor, and kind of this proverbial, if you build it, they will come kind of thing. Yeah. Totally played out with the Folk Festival. I mean, you guys know from your location down there on Main Street that the waterfront for a long time, after the glory days of the railroads, it was industrial tanks in wasteland.
It was, yeah. Well, and more than almost. I mean, a lot of that a lot of that land was certified brownfields that
Yeah.
you can't build on, you can't do much with, without putting the right sort of environmental care and concern into it. And now it's become a wonderfully vibrant part of our community, and downtown is doing well. I mean,
Yeah.
I think about the arts and the culture in our area, that has grown up alongside a strengthened local economy, and it's unbelievable.
Yeah.
I remember when I was younger and I'd leave and go to other places, I'd see these towns that had so much that Bangor didn't.
Yeah.
And I haven't seen that in a while.
Yeah.
You know, I haven't gone to a place and thought, man, this is so cool, they've got this thing.
Yeah.
Oftentimes I'm like, oh, we got one of
Wish
those,
we had
we
that,
got that,
yeah.
we got this, we got that, we got that. And people now are understanding Bangor is this cool place.
Yeah.
And it extends beyond, I mean, you obviously are from Bangor, live in Bangor, city councilor there, but Brewer's doing some great things. We're seeing a lot of the communities around growing
Yeah.
up, and this whole bigger area is just
Yeah.
rocking.
Yeah. I think it took a long time for communities to recognize that gone are the days when you're going to recruit a shoe factory, for example, to come into the community and employ 700 people, and that's going to fuel a good portion of the economy.
Yeah.
In the Penobscot River Valley, there are almost no jobs connected to the paper industry anymore. Maybe Old Town is reviving a little bit with their activity, but it took a long time to recognize that and to realize that we got to change the way we think about things here a little bit. We have to build around certainly some of the key assets like the hospitals, the universities, but also the smaller businesses. You guys here, you're an economic driver for this region at this point, and I don't say that just to flatter, but it's true. And both from a job standpoint, driving revenue, money flowing through the economy, but also making it a vibrant community that people want to be.
Yeah.
When I first moved back, we were still really in the depths of the Great Recession, and the line was always jobs, jobs, jobs. We got to attract jobs. Absolutely, yes, 100%. However, there's also a lifestyle component here that for a lot of people that grow up here, you probably felt it too, there's a feeling like, I gotta get away from here, there's nothing going on, there's nothing to do. A lot of that is normal human experience, I think. It's happened for thousands of years, people wanting to explore, do something different. But filling in those missing pieces of having craft breweries and having event spaces and having live music downtown at half dozen places on Thursday, Friday, Saturday night.
Yeah.
Kind of gives people the confidence to move back from someplace like Boston or Portland. To be honest, when I made the decision to move back, I was nervous in some ways. I worked in the financial field, and fortunately that was a job that I could do just about anywhere.
Yeah.
But I remember thinking, man, is life going to be entertaining and stimulating enough? Am I going to have friends in my age cohort to go out and do things with? Are there going to be things to do? And fortunately, it has come to pass that there are.
Yeah, and then we've talked about some of the big picture things that have come about, but I mean, there's so many niche events, niche communities, small groups that are doing some really neat things too. I mean, too many to really list, but you're seeing a lot of people in Bangor come into their own.
Yeah.
A lot of entrepreneurial spirit, a lot of people giving things a shot. It's kind of that a big enough community that you can make a go of many different things, but it's also small enough that you can still be the first to market on some of these ideas, you know, and really dive in.
Bangor area. Well,
Yeah.
It's just big enough and just small enough.
Yeah.
And if I were gonna try to be on city council, for example, in Boston, it's probably a 25-year meandering path through this bureaucracy to get to that point. Whereas in Bangor, I moved back in the spring, ran for city council in November. The community really rallied to help me and support me. And people really, I think, root for your success here. And hopefully you felt that as well.
Well, and people root for when the town wins, when the city wins, and that happens probably everywhere. My point of reference is obviously this area. And I think a lot of people in town felt like, because we've heard so much about the brain drain, and we've heard so much about why people don't want to be here and why we're going to lose all of our young talent, and you blew some smoke my way earlier, I'm going to blow some back. when a young person of your talent level and ability comes back to their hometown, that's an exciting thing, you know, and you really have gone on and done, not just come into town and been an active part of the town, but really helped to continue to drive these things forward and continue to grow these things. And so you've fulfilled the sort of the hope of like, hey, he's coming back, something good's going to happen, and you've done that. So let's talk a little bit about Bangor High grad, left, came back. You said you were gone for
9 years.
9 years? Yeah. So I'm a kid that grew up here, had the opportunities to stay here, went to the University of Maine, had a great opportunity and experience there. Graduated from Bangor Theological Seminary, stayed right in town, married the woman of my dreams, had beautiful kids, all that sort of stuff right here. And so I was fortunate to do that. Not everybody's path looks like that.
Yeah.
You left for a reason. What was that reason? What brought you back?
Yeah. Well, I left for college, and you play out some of the great what ifs of your life. I went to Massachusetts and it was great. I had definitely thought of going to University of Maine. Bowdoin were kind of on my radar, and in some ways, I think I probably would have been just as happy in life staying in Maine. Mm-hmm. But I had the opportunity. Went to Harvard for college and had a wonderful experience there. And then Boston, it's a great city, and wanted to stick around. Was lucky enough to get a fun job right out of college, working for the Red Sox for a few years.
It's not too bad, right?
Yeah. Hard to move back to Bangor if you also want to work for the Red Sox, and if you get that opportunity. So I did that, and it was awesome. It was a dream job for a while, but eventually, the more time you are away, at least for me, you come to appreciate things about Maine, and it's things that a lot of us, I think, even now today, kind of take for granted, like clean air, clean water. Turn on the tap and drink the water right from the tap. There are many places in the country, including in Massachusetts, that you can't or won't do that.
Yeah.
Bar Harbor's right down the road, Millinocket, Baxter, Katahdin, right up the road. Yeah. There's a lot to do that is stimulating and rewarding and fulfilling. And I also knew that if I eventually was going to settle down, if I was going to have kids, I would really like it to be in a place like Bangor, and really Bangor specifically. Yeah. But I had a great childhood growing up here, from the school system to just the general safety and wellness of the community, and I wanted that for my family. My yet to be far visions of barely a glimmer in my eye at that point. But I knew that was my hope, that would happen and I would be able to settle down here, right? Which I was, and I never regretted it once.
I spent some time as an educator. My mom just retired as an educator. My wife is an educator, and you mentioned the schools. I mean, it's rare to find a hub of educational quality that you find in the Bangor region. I mean, you look at many of the schools right in town, in Bangor and Brewer and Hampden, Herman, like Orono, like all these schools are just like a lot of really, really good schools, a lot of really strong communities, a lot of great opportunity for kids to learn and grow and develop, but also be kids still. I agree. My kids are getting way too old now. Mine are at 12 and almost 10, and it's been such a great experience to grow up with them, because once you have kids, you learn that you're growing up with them in a place like this, and it's cool. And I love hearing the stories of people who had opportunities, pursued them or didn't, but really are in Bangor because this is where you want to be, are in Maine. I mean, we're going to talk to people from all over the state. I think this is a story that holds true for a lot of communities. There's a lot of pride in our communities, and there should be. There should be. We have a lot of people, but we also have challenges. I mean, what are some of the challenges that you see coming forward? I mean,
Yeah.
if you could pick like a few things that are, if we can overcome these things, if we can get through these things, I'm not asking you to say on the record, like, here's the exact plan of how it's going to happen, because so many of these issues are things that are bigger than that.
Yeah.
What are those things? What are the things that you would be most passionate about solving
Yeah.
in the next little bit?
Well, how long do you have on this
right.
recording? Sometimes I'll get that question about what is missing in the Bangor region, and what I say is that we need 30,000 more people with disposable income who want to be here, who can spend and drive economic activity through their spending and contribute their talents to the volunteer organizations, the civic life, the social fabric of the community. A lot of what we want to do in this place, we need more people contributing and giving in and being a part of it. Just as this is one random aside, but we've talked about rail before.
Yeah.
We would love to have passenger rail coming into Bangor. The economics of it, I don't think work right now, because there's not enough people to ride it. We all love the idea of passenger rail.
Yep.
But are there enough of us to ride it regularly to make it cost effective for a business or even a public utility style company to do it? Restaurants it's kind of the same. Lots of people have great ideas for restaurants. They pop up. I mean, your family has seen all the restaurants come and go over time.
Yeah.
There's only so much market share to go around.
Yeah, and I agree. I think that's a huge piece. We were in a conference a few weeks ago, and one of the presenters was talking about economic challenges for the area. And the look was, I believe it was by 2025, if we see our economy grow 1% per year, we're going to be 100,000 workers short.
Yeah.
And that's like a real reality. And honestly, that's a big part of my passion for having these conversations and putting them out to everybody, to say, to highlight really cool people that I've met through my journeys of making beer and being at a pub and legit just here's some really cool people I know, let's talk. Yeah. But then really to say, hey, this is what makes Bangor great, and these are some of the barriers we need to get over. And I think that's a really easy barrier to work towards fixing.
Yeah.
Now, is there a simple solution, one solution that's going to get 100,000 people to move to the state of Maine?
Yeah.
No, but having conversations that change the dialogue.
Yeah.
I think we have sometimes too much of a defeatist mentality in Maine that, we're going to highlight all these things that are blah, blah, blah. But we don't highlight the great things as well as we should.
Yeah.
We don't talk about what could be and what will be as much as we could. We talk about the kids that leave. We don't remember all the great ones that stay.
Yeah.
And I think we've got an opportunity to change that conversation, change that dialogue to when you hear from someone from away, we don't go, oh yeah, they're from away. We go, hey, awesome, thanks for picking our area.
Yeah.
We love having you.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the conversation even a few years ago, we talk about 2011, 2012, was very much like negative, defeatist, talking our way into decline, and not across the board. There are pockets of positivity, as there always are. But the conversation has really shifted to, haven't we come so far? Yeah. Where are we going? This is really good. This is positive. And if we can convince younger people especially, and I don't want to be ageist here. We want anybody to come here.
100%.
Because the same things that younger people want, affordable cost of living, recreation, social, culture, it's the same thing older people want as well. But we do really need the younger demographic to be here. If we can have them make that leap that if they move here, there are going to be things to do. There's going to be a social life. There's going to be stimulation. There's going to be other people in their age cohort with their interest. That will all help people make that psychological leap that it's okay to think about moving here.
Yeah.
Because the businesses in this area, one of the greatest challenges they have is a very tight labor market. Everybody needs talent. Everybody needs new people. At the bank I work for, we put out a job posting. There's not as many applicants as you might think.
And this is across the board. I mean, this is not a bank issue. This is not a talent based on we don't have the people with the right credentials. This is, again, it's a population scenario.
Yep.
We have a lot of people doing a lot of things, and we have a lot of economic growth that we've seen from that 2011 range till now, and we've gotten to a point where our economic growth has somewhat outpaced our population growth.
Yep.
And we're talking line cooks and servers in our establishments to high-end people in the bank. Not just we're not talking tellers by themselves. We're talking a teller
Every
to a
position.
financial analyst. It's everything. Whatever you want to do, if you're a quality candidate, there's going to be an opportunity for it in Bangor.
Right. And so this is the issue that touches on every other issue. Because if you ask that question to 100 people out there, you're going to get probably 100 different responses. Mm-hmm. Because you could easily say the challenges are opioid use or housing or grinding poverty in general, homelessness. Mm-hmm. Yes, absolutely. Yep. Places that have the strongest social service networks are the places with the strongest economies. If you look at some of these Scandinavian countries, for example, that have these really strong social safety nets, they also have very robust growing economies. Yep. Even like San Francisco, Seattle, these communities that are sort of the darlings of economic growth, but also progressive policy to take care of people, they can do that because they have a strong economy. Yep. When the economy is strong, when there's a lot of money flowing through and having a multiplier effect, that's what pays for services. You cannot pay for the services without these strong
100%, and that's what makes it possible to actually dive into these bigger issues with the perspective and the means to address them. I mean, I think you're spot on, and I think the opioid epidemic is certainly something that is a critical issue, but you're right as well that the stronger we make our community, the stronger we're going to be in giving opportunities to help people out of that situation. And it's not a throw money at it type of situation. That one's one with a lot of understanding that's needed and a lot of growth that's needed. But again, you need to have that foundation to address it and have something that people are looking forward to. No, it's a really, really interesting perspective, and I hope we can continue to grow in that way, and get people to realize that this is prime right now. This is prime. We've spoken in these tasting room conversations with a bunch of people. Some of them have aired, some are still yet in the queue. And one of the themes that comes through a lot of those is that feeling that a lot of the people that I'm speaking with feel that we're on the cusp of something, and I think we are. I think much like the Bangor area and the Maine that I knew as a kid versus what I see it as now is going to be as much change from what my kids see to what they'd be able to see if they stick around. So it's awesome. Let's shift gears a little bit beyond these big city issues, these big Maine issues, these big world issues. What's something in Bangor, in the Bangor area, that you're involved with outside of that hat that you are most passionate about, that you want to give a little light to?
Sure. Well, there's a whole bunch of things I can talk about too.
You've got a list.
And we've got,
and we can talk about more than one. I don't need just one.
I'll give a quick just shout out aside that we've got, like you, my wife and I, parents, we've got a 5-year-old, a 3-year-old, and a 5-month-old at home now, which takes up a lot of our time.
A little bit.
Happily so. And I mean, we're tired, as most parents are, all the time. I don't remember what it feels like to be rested, and I probably won't for many years to come.
I sat with my wife a few years ago, and I said, remember when we were in college and we'd complain about how tired we were?
I talked to some of the young employees, whether they're with the city or the bank I work for, and they're in their 20s without any kids, sometimes married, sometimes not, sometimes dating, sometimes not. And God love them, if you want to go home and watch Netflix at night, that's fine, do your thing. But also, live your life and experience all the opportunities out there.
Yeah.
I don't mean to be dour, like, well, you still can, because we experience Bangor differently now through our kids. And that's where I was going with that get to experience things like the Maine Discovery Museum or like the Bangor Public Library or just going to the city forest or walking on the waterfront with our kids and kind of see the community through their eyes. And it's honestly changed me as a city councilor, the types of issues that I focus on, because when I started, I was a single man, 28 years old, and now I'm married with 3 kids, and your focus has changed in healthy ways, I think. But city manager will joke with me sometimes that the things I'll ask her about now that I want to work on, I didn't care about. Because I have the perspective when I started, and so now my perspective is different, and it's wonderful. So I've honestly tried to cut back a little bit on boards and committees, and we all do a million different things, and I try to give back and help out when I can, but also just trying to live my life in the community that I love with my wife and my kids and do life in Bangor together.
Yeah.
And it's been great.
That's awesome.
I'm race director for this event called Aaron's Run, which is coming up. Depending on the time of this posting, it'll most likely have passed, but we raise money in memory of Erin Woolley, who's a Bangor native. It's our 7th year of doing it. Yep. She sadly passed away of cancer in 2010, but we do this as a celebration of her life and to preserve her legacy and to raise money in her name for the causes that were important to her. So it's a 5K on the Bangor waterfront. We raise $12,000 to $15,000 a year with it. Awesome. And it's a good example of what we were talking about earlier. If you want to start something,
you can do it.
Yeah, there's very few people.
We'll put links to all that, because even if it airs after this one, we'll be ready for next year.
Yeah, exactly. 7th annual event this year, so we hope it continues indefinitely, and it's grown nicely, and I'm proud of it. It's something I really enjoy being involved with, and I don't do any of this stuff on my own. We got teams of people to help out, but it's great, and he's exactly right. If you want to do something in this community, not only are there very few roadblocks, but a lot of people will, if it's a good idea and you're working hard at it, they'll rally to your cause to help you out.
Yeah, definitely. Well, cool. Hey, we could go on forever. I mean, we really only scratched the surface, but really want to thank you for the time. Thank you for the work you're putting into the city and all that good stuff. And I welcome you back anytime. We can do some more tasting conversations.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Cheers.
Cheers.